This will be a gesture drawing of the posterior view of the hand. It is also known as the dorsal view. So once again, I want to start off with a rectangular shape, just a very simple shape to get the back side of the hand, and now extend the wrist. Remember, it's a little bit wider through here. And then I'm just going to try to very lightly figure in the angle and the proportions of where I want the fingers to more or less end. So if this is the base, just going over proportions a little bit real quickly here, basically what we have is this distance in here to the top of the metacarpal to the end of the finger would be about the same. So we want to more or less get this kind of in line with the proportions, and the rest can fit around it. Then I want to add off this rectangular shape, I want to add this little triangular shape so that we know where the thumb is going to come out, right through here. And just a quick gesture. So in just a few quick shapes added in, we can kind of block in what we feel will be the gesture of the hand. And then once we get that laid out, the proportions and the general shapes, we can go in and start actually articulating the anatomy. So at this point now that I kind of have that blocked in and I know more or less where things are, I'll start very quickly adding the phalanges. We'll start off with the pointer finger we have coming through here, and it's important to note that the pointer finger and the pinky are going to slightly curl in, even though the fingers may be separated. And I'm trying to do a fairly just simple conventional hand here so that I can go over some of this what I feel is useful information. So right in here we have the knuckle, and these are the part of the metacarpals. We have the carpals in here, then the metacarpals run through here, then we have our phalanges, which are our fingers. And the first row of fingers are known as the proximal phalanx, right through here, proximal phalanges. And it's going to end about halfway. Your pointer finger and your ring finger will end about halfway, half the length, right at the base of the distal phalange of your middle finger. So I'm going to get my hand to have a little gap in here. Trying to draw my hand while I'm talking. And I want to make sure I get the length more or less correct in here. So we'll have the ring finger coming along in here. Keep those two a little closer together. And then the pinky is going to end about halfway up the medial phalange of the ring finger. So we want to make sure we keep all those portions in check. That way it should look fairly realistic when it's all said and done. So this, remember, we want this to curl in. This needs to curl in slightly. This is going to end right up in here. This is going to have a slight curl this way. This will have a slight curl in through here. A little thicker there. And we want to get a little bit of this base in there. And we have this little fleshy portion of the thumb. This section in here. Remember the thumb, we have opposable thumb, and the thumb only has a proximal and a distal phalange. It does not have a medial phalange. And the thumb going to come more or less just through here. Knuckle up in there. So we have that width through there. And it's going to come in. Then we have right in here the metacarpal. And it's going to come through here. And we have the tendons of the extensor muscles come through here. And through here, through here. And so just very lightly, I want to also point out that the knuckles wrap around at this angle. So they don't run straight across. They differ in length. Each finger, when you get to the the phalange, the first phalange and the second phalange and the third phalange, which is the proximal, medial, and distal, they all reduce in size by 1/3. So that's kind of an important thing to keep in mind. Here's the proximal phalange. Now for the medial phalange, and then now we add the distal phalange, which has the fingernail on top. And then we have that little fold through here. Pinky coming in here, and this section goes behind. We have this fold coming in front. So now we have just a quick, nice, loose gesture. Remember, we started off with just a simple rectangular shape. We found the distance from here to the top of the metacarpal, and from the metacarpal to the end, and that is the halfway point between here and here. And of your middle finger, that's a good indication for proportion. It makes it very helpful to kind of keep in mind. There's, you know, with foreshortening and lots of other things that can happen that can change, but that's just a good general rule of thumb. It's always helpful to keep in mind. What's interesting is if you look at the back side of the hand, if I'm looking at the back side of the hand and I bend my fingers slightly, you can see where this section may appear to be a little shorter and this section appears to be a little longer. However, if I turn my hand the other way, this seems much longer, this seems much shorter. So that has to do with the fleshy folds and the skin and how it falls over the bone structure. You can see here there's a webbing in this section between each of the fingers that changes it. So when you view it from the palmar side, it creates the illusion that this is larger, this is smaller. This is on the back side would appear smaller, this would appear larger. But if you just keep that in mind and always keep the bones, because the actual osteology of the hand, the bone structure on the middle finger on this section is pretty much half and half. And then you would just think about adding the fleshy folds. So this is just a quick gesture drawing, just a quick explanation of proportion, quick gesture drawing. What I will do is I'll spend a little bit of time here and I will finish shading it in a time lapse so that you have little bit more time to work on your own drawings, but you can see the process of how I would go about shading it and doing a more complete finished drawing of the posterior view of the hand. So now on to the time lapse.